I believe that I heard about Frankie in the fall of 1986. Maybe I had read something about him before, but I didn't know really who he was or anything like that. But I think it was Erin Stevens telling me that Frankie was in New York. He had started to teach a little bit at the time. And when she told me this, we met in London. So I think she gave me the phone number of Frankie. And I remember probably in November 1986, I called Frankie and we spoke a little bit over the phone. And I said, if I would come to New York, would you be interested to meet me then? And he said, yes, of course. So I decided to buy tickets for New York, and I believe that was in February 1987. And I was told at the time that the New York Swing Dance Society, they had a performance troupe. I guess it was called the Big Apple Lindy Hoppers at the time. And Frankie was on the troupe, so I was told that they were performing on a smaller club on Manhattan. So I went to the club, and I think it was 3 or possibly 4 couples performing. And I came in, and when they performed, that was the first time I actually saw Frankie as far as I remember. So he came on stage with the other dancers, and they performed the Lindy number. And then I had the opportunity to talk to Frankie a little bit after the show. And he said, why don't you come to my home and we can talk more in a more peaceful environment. So a few days later, I was invited to come to his home. And I went there, it was out in Queens. And I can't remember exactly, but Frankie was maybe on the 10th, 14th floor, something like that. He opened the door and it showed that he had prepared a little lunch that day. And the lunch was some kind of sandwiches with meatballs, and meatballs is a typical Swedish thing. Maybe Frankie knew about that. And even more funny, I think, in some of the meatballs he had put a toothpick with a Swedish flag. So that was the first time we spent some time together. We were sitting there eating those sandwiches with meatballs with Swedish flags, and since then I guess we became friends, and he started to come to Sweden and to teach us more about the Lindy Hop he had been doing back in the 30s and 40s. The impact of Frankie in my life has been enormous, I would say. I'm sometimes thinking about it because it's easy to forget things. But somehow if I would choose, let's say 3 or 5 persons in my life that have influenced it a lot, Frankie would be one of those persons. So it was not only about his dancing that influenced me, it was also about the person he was and the background he had. Maybe he was a little bit hesitant in the beginning to believe that something could happen again with the dance, but once he has understood that there were groups of young people willing to train, to practice, to start to teach, to start to perform, all those kind of things, then I think Frankie went 100% into this. He had retired from the post, and I think he was in good health. He still had the interest for the dance. So for him it was a new kind of door that opened at the time. And I mean, he immediately became the center of attention because he had the know-how, and he was very accessible, and he was very willing to share all the time. So for us coming into the dance at that time, he was the man we always asked if there were any questions about how to do the dance or the background in Harlem.